Philippine Airlines is the flag carrier of the Philippines, operating from its base at Ninoy Aquino International Airport. PAL is the oldest airline in Asia operating under its original name, having been founded in 1941. On February 26, 1941, Philippine Airlines was formally incorporated by a group of businessmen headed by Andres Soriano, Sr. At that time, he was hailed as one of the Philippines' leading industrialists and served as the airline's general manager. Soriano and former Senator Ramon J. Fernandez acquired the franchise of Philippine Aerial Taxi Company, and renamed Philippine Airlines, PAL. The airline's first flight took place on March 15, 1941 with a single Beechcraft Model 18 NPC-54 on daily services between Manila, from Nielsen Field, and Baguio. It carried 2 pilots and 5 passengers on its maiden flight. The 5 passengers were the founders of the airline, Soriano, Fernandez, Juan Miguel Elizalde, John R. Schultz and Ernesto von Kaufmann. Government investment in September 1941 paved the way for its nationalization. On October 23, 1941, John R. Schultz was elected by the board of directors as treasurer of Philippine Airlines. PAL services were interrupted during World War II, which lasted in the Philippines from late 1941 to 1945. Upon the outbreak of the Pacific War on December 8, 1941, the 2 Model 18s and its pilots were pressed into military service. They were used to evacuate American fighter pilots to Australia until one was shot down over Mindanao and the other was destroyed on the ground in an air raid in Surabaya, Indonesia. On February 15, 1946, PAL resumed operations after a 5-year hiatus with service to 15 domestic points with 5 Douglas DC-3s and a payroll of 108 names. Philippine Airlines returned to its original home, Nielsen Field in Makati. The airport, heavily damaged during the war, was refurbished and modernized by PAL at a cost of over 1 million pesos, quickly becoming the official port of entry for air passengers into the Philippines. The airport was operated by Manila International Air Terminal, a wholly owned PAL subsidiary. On July 31, 1946, PAL became the first Asian airline to cross the Pacific Ocean when it chartered Douglas DC-4 ferried 40 American servicemen to Oakland, California from Nielsen Airport with stops in Guam, Wake Island, Johnston Atoll, and Honolulu. A regular service between Manila and San Francisco started in December 1946. During this time, the airline was designated as the country's flag carrier. PAL commenced service to Europe in 1947 with the acquisition of more Douglas DC-4s. By 1948, PAL had absorbed the only other scheduled airlines in the Philippines, Far Eastern Air Transport and Commercial Airlines. Following the government's decision to convert Nichols Field in Pasay, the site of a former U.S. Air Force base, into the new international airport for Manila, PAL was required to move its base of operations and passenger terminal there from Nielsen Airport. The transfer was accomplished over a 5-month period from January 31 to June 28, 1948, with PAL investing an additional 600,000 pesos in ground installations and improvements to Nichols Field. In 1951, PAL leased a DC-3 named Kinsei to Japan Airlines, which led to the founding of the country's own national airline. In March 1954, the Philippine government suspended all flights to Europe, Japan, and the United States, only to resume 5 years later. In 3 years PAL started services to Hong Kong, Bangkok, and Taipei using Convair 340s that would later be replaced by the Vickers Viscount 784, which brought the airline into the turboprop age.